Welcome to Luminary Leadership, a sanctuary for visionary leaders, conscious creators, and purpose-driven pioneers who are ready to rise into their next era with presence, power, and deep soulful alignment. I'm your host, Eslyn Olivia Barnes, conscious leadership and spiritual development guide, here to hold space for the sacred intersection of energy mastery, personal reinvention, and evolutionary leadership. On this platform, we don't just talk, we transmit. We share soul teachings and transmissions, the kind that stirs something awake within you, the kind that remind you of who you truly are and who you are becoming. And today's episode is such a sacred one. I am joined by my dear friend, a luminous woman, and someone whose story is of reclamation. Her story has been wild and deeply inspiring. And I'm so honored to introduce to you Jessica Rea Putzman. Now, I met Jessica in London at the Modern Mystery School, a school for advanced spiritual development training, and we were both doing our Ritual Master 1 training and initiation. And we will go deeper into this later today. But like for many of us, her path wasn't linear. She walked through addiction, dark nights of the soul, identity, deaths, and rebirths. And from the ashes of that unraveling, she has risen to a woman she is today, magnetic, embodied, deeply devoted to her healing, and anchored in her truth. In today's conversation, Addiction, Ambition, and Ascension, we explore the early days of chaos and numbing, the fire of ambition and the trap of overachieving, the spiritual awakening that changed everything, and how Jessica now lives, loves, and leads from a place of softness and feminine power. So wherever you are in your own journey, take a breath, drop in, and allow this conversation to meet you in the place where you are ready to remember yourself again. Welcome, Jess. I would love, love, love for you to begin with an introduction to yourself, and it's such a blessing and an honor to have you here today.
Wow, Eslyn, thank you so much for having me here. And what a beautiful introduction to your sacred speaking, your podcast, this luminous experience. And really just thank you for acknowledging the growth and the change that I've been through as well. I must say, when we first met, I saw a light shine through you and I knew we would be friends. And I'm so grateful to see where we've come together. So thank you for inviting me. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Jessica Rea Putzman. There's a variation online, so if you see Jessica Rea, you know it's me. I am a ritual master, I'm a healer, I'm a teacher in the lineage of King Solomon. I'm also a professional chef and a jack of all trades and a master of some. So I have got an incredible path behind me of addiction and traumatic experiences that led to this incredibly strong journey of healing, which I started when I was around about 18. So I've been incorporating all different methods of modalities and healings and shamanism and drug taking up until about 4 years ago. Till then, I stepped into the lineage of King Solomon and the path of know thyself, where I've really truly dove deep into what it means to truly lead with my heart, lead in light. And I think if I didn't take this weekend's rest, I probably wouldn't have been able to speak from the perspective of the soft feminine, because I was on full masculine blast for the last 4 weeks to be able to truly show up for myself today in my feminine. So thank you so much for having me here, and I'm so looking forward to this. Let's go.
Wonderful. Okay, Jess. So take us to the very beginning. And I would love to for you to share a bit more of context. Where do you come from? What was your childhood like? What was your upbringing like?
Beautiful, beautiful. Thank you. So, a bit of a mixed bag. They called me a pavement special, I would say, because I have the beauty of experiencing adoption. So, I'm South African. I was born in South Africa, but I was adopted by British parents. So I already had this very international influence from a very young age. So I grew up in Cape Town, South Africa. For those of you who don't know, book your flight now. It's amazing. And I loved being a South African woman growing up for 18 to 19 years before I moved to the United Kingdom, where I'm now anchored in London. Now, being adopted was such a blessing. I kind of always knew I was adopted. So my parents told me as early as possible that I'm adopted. And I didn't quite realize how much it affected me until I was in rehab when I was 19 years old. As much as I had been adopted by two incredibly amazing parents, it did what happens with a baby when they don't get put on their mother's body straight after birth. It creates a jolt in the nervous system, which kind of triggers the abandonment and rejection gene within the body that set me on a path of really tricky feelings that I was unable to really identify until I got into rehab when I was 18. I'm not saying that that's the core reason, but it is an amazingly strong part of who I was, because addiction for me started really young. I started drinking cough medicine when I was about 4 or 5 years old. I would somehow find the medicine cabinet, like on a mission, get it and down bottles of it. So I was already numbing myself. Now, from a spiritual perspective, we can relate this to emanation, so past experiences as we were spirit guides and experiencing these things. But at the time, obviously, I wasn't a spiritual healer, neither were my parents. So it was just this really questionable behaviors that started really young. I was a really vibrant, vivacious, and bubbly kid always. I think throughout my entire junior school career up until the end of high school, the word bubbly was on every single report. So I always had a really strong spirit. And I got into really weird behaviors. I was stealing, I was lying. It was really weird. I grew up in a very affluent, abundant vibe and energy, and I was stealing like random little things. I had these behaviors and they were so toxic, and it built up a lot of shame within me.
Mm.
When I got more towards like my teenage years, these behaviors, rebellion started. I was sexually active super young. I was raving super young. I was taking drugs. I was potting. My parents had their hands full. And it was a little bit of a case of having absent parents as well as having really involved parents as well. Like my parents absolutely loved me, but they worked so super hard to create the life that I was living. So there was this fluctuation of like, on top of the adoption kind of genetic of abandonment, I was just rebelling. I was like anything to get their attention, right? And obviously taking it the extra mile. Now, I was really lucky to have parents that kind of let me grow up freely in the sense of religion and spirituality. My dad's Orthodox Jewish and my mum is Reformed Jewish, which she converted from Church of England, which is, it's a leg of Catholicism, I think. Correct me if I'm wrong. But so I was born Jewish and I was told I was Jewish, but I never really understood what it was. So I became Buddhist, Hindu, Hare Krishna. I even became Muslim. Like I was fully committed. I was going to marry a Muslim man. It was it. But essentially, I then turned into um, kind of spiritually diving in the shamanic paths as well. I went down a really toxic path, which we will touch on a little bit later. It's like I went into the drug induced spiritual awakening community, psychedelics, psytrance, all of that. So I had dipped my toes in many places, but essentially from now where I'm standing, where I can take an observation, like take observation of the experiences that I had, I was doing research. My soul was doing research. It was seeking God. It was
Mm.
seeking the connection to God, not knowing that I was God, not knowing that God was within me. I was seeking a connection to a higher power, which I hadn't been brought up with. And I found it in the most interesting and dark places. I really ventured into the depths of drugs. I started off as a party girl, raving, And I was just really popular. I was really friendly. People gravitated towards me. I was magnetic. So people were like, oh my gosh, where are you getting, like, the drugs that I was taking? I was super high vibe bullshit, but excuse my French. But they were like, where are you getting this? And eventually I just became this middle woman. So I was like, you know what? Like, instead of me running around the festival going to my brothers at the back of the dance floor to go get them all their substances, I became someone who used to hold the substances on me.
Yeah.
And that started a path of about, I would say, about 8 years of drug dealing. And it just got more and more and more. And even though I was going through my spiritual awakening and I was taking loads of psychedelics and acid and LSD and plant medicine drugs, I was also breaking myself down, ending up in negative situations with people who weren't there for to love me and to treat me right. They were there to hurt me, and or they didn't even know they were there to hurt me, but they were consistently showing up. We were consistently showing up. I was toxic. My behaviors were toxic. And this was all happening while I was getting through matric, while I was going through school. Like, I was a very, very determined woman. And um, yeah, so it was really heartbreaking for my parents to see me go through this, but quite frankly, I was out of control.
Yeah.
um and I got involved in gangsterism. I got involved in all these really heavy things in South Africa, and eventually I went into rehab because I needed a break from society. I needed someone to just hold me. And I went into a rehab in Cape Town, lockdown facility for a month, and then I continued for 3 months after that into secondary and tertiary, like, kind of sober living experience. And that saved my life. It saved my life so beautifully. I don't say that you have to go to rehab and you have to do the 12 steps. They are incredibly important keys. I'm not going to take it down because it saved my life. I would not be here today if it wasn't for these incredible things. And that started my journey of recovery. And that was in 2017. And now we're 2025. So it's been incredible years. There's been relapses, there's been moving countries, there's been breakups, there's been plant medicine, shamanism kind of trying to steal me back into the addictions. And it's been a war. Like, addiction is not easy. And there was sex addiction, love addiction, substances. And by substances, I mean alcohol, weed, eating disorders, food. Oh, I'm a private professional chef. I made my career my addiction, and I made my addiction my career. So I've also had to clean up my addictions while working in the career that got me sick and that encouraged my sickness. Um, I think another important key for me to mention was I started an eating disorder at the age of 8.
Mm.
Age of 8, I was body shaming. I had body dysmorphia. I was bulimic, and it oscillated between bulimia, anorexia, starvation, body dysmorphia, overeating, undereating for 20 years, between 18 and 20 years. And that was probably one of the hardest things, that and love addiction. So now I'm on the other side of all of these things. It's incredible, and I did many things. I have incredible healers in South Africa that helped me in the beginning. I went to Life Matters, an outpatient clinic, which with Vion Visagie, an amazing addictions counselor in South Africa. He was insane. He saw straight through my darkness, straight through my bullshit, and he was like, I'm going to help you. And then eventually, step by step, as I started having mental breakdowns when I relapsed a couple of years later, eventually I cried for help. I was suicidal again, and I was just like, all I want to do is help people. All I want to do is help people. I remember I was screeching and crying, and I was going through a psychedelic, like, attack, basically. Which, if for those of you who've never taken psychedelics or have never taken drugs, I was in a state of mental, like, I was broken. And the my mind was so weak and my energy was so weak that I was just letting anything on the outside of me just affect me. And I basically was like, I was like, I'm done. And I just remember saying, all I want to do is help people. And my cry to God got me so far. It brought me to the right people, to the right places. And during all of this, one of my best friends was kidnapped and murdered. And his name was Previn Pillay, and he is an incredible man. And he went through a very traumatic death. And what happened in the spiritual world is he held space for me to become a shaman, to become the healer. Not that I wasn't already, but his passing kind of ignited this internal alchemy of me being like, I have to step out. I have a gift. I'm gifted. I can't keep going back the same way. And he held these energetic space for me to realize that I had to become. And that process, that year, 2 year or year and a half process led me to the mystery school. It was like, I gave up everything. I gave up what I looked like. I cut my hair off. I became, I wouldn't say gender fluid because that's completely incorrect. However, I let go of gender. I let go of identity, and I just stripped myself from being anyone or anything I was. And it was gross. Like, I showed up in the weirdest way, but I rebuilt myself from the beginning. And I just kept on going. No one understood what I was doing. They thought I was really mentally unstable and stuff. And I was like, I understand I look like a lunatic, but just hang 10, give me 2 years, I'll be back. And I went on a deep spiritual research. And eventually I'm like, this doesn't work. This doesn't work. That's not right. This is not right. Plant medicine's wrong. This is wrong. You can't be taking this. You can't be doing that. And I sat in Vipassana for 10 days in silent retreat meditations. Like, I went through breakups. I moved countries. I tried different spiritual techniques. I met different spiritual masters. And I'm like, I understand that this works for you now, but I'm talking about longevity. I'm talking about afterlife. I'm talking about the real thing. Like, I need that. Like, that's the level I knew in my soul I deserved. And I didn't stop until I found it. Well, it found me. And that's what brought me to the mystery school. And that was this month, it'll be 4 years. And I have looked back. I left the mystery school at one point. I was like, oh, I want to be a plant medicine shaman again. But my addictions were just like, and eventually cut it.
Yeah.
I haven't looked back. I haven't, there's no reason to look back now. But yeah, sorry, I went on a bit of a ramble there, but there's me in a nutshell.
No, Jess, thank you so much for being so open and vulnerable with your journey. You've been on quite a ride. And I remember, I'm actually getting goosebumps now when I met you. And the more I got to know you and see pieces of you, on social media, and every time we would come together, I was like, I resonate with you so much. I resonate with your journey so much. And even you sharing your story now, there was so much that I can identify with, on my path as well. And, I love what you shared also around, well, actually, I didn't know that I learned something new about you today. I didn't know that you were adopted. So that was quite interesting to learn. But similar to you, I also had these amazing parents who did everything to provide this beautiful life for me. But since I was a child, I also had that addictive behavior. And I also remember being a child, probably like 4 or 5. Mine started with chocolate addiction. And I would actually like overeat chocolate, and then I would steal chocolate. And then when my mom would ask me like, who took it? I would say, it's not me, it's my hand that took it. I'd come up with all these excuses. And that eventually also led to very early partying, drug use, rebellion, and so forth. And there's so much in your story that I can totally resonate with. So I'm so glad that you shared your story so openly, with us. And, before we actually get into the mystery school side of stuff, share a bit more about the spiritual path you were on before. Now, you mentioned you were into psychedelics and shamanism, experimenting with that. Share with us, what is the difference between that type of spirituality, or maybe the frequency that you were at back then, versus, the frequency and the spiritual path you are on now?
Wow, huge question. Amazing answer. I watched a documentary on Gaia. For those of you who don't know what Gaia is, it's like spiritual Netflix. And you got to sift through some of it. Some of it's a bit interesting. Highly recommend Dr. Ipsissima Teresa's mystery teachings on Gaia. Amazing. But what I found is a documentary called The Only Constant is Change. I will correct that. No, the only constant is change. And basically, it was this guy, and I'm telling my story through his. Is like he was successful. He was European. He was earning loads of money. Amazing girlfriend. He had all these vegan restaurants and all of this stuff. Like really beautiful, good looking. Like ticks all the boxes. Success. But he was suicidal and unhappy. He was doing lots of cocaine. And he decided to go on this spiritual path, and he recorded everything. And what this documentary does is it puts in juxtaposition the path of meditation and mindfulness and growth, and the path of psychedelics and the path of plant medicine drugs. And what he captures so beautifully, if you're visual, then that's incredible. And I will always use this reference because it makes so much sense, is when you show up every day and you make small 1% increments in your life, you are creating permanent change. You are slowly opening the gates of awakening. You're bringing in the light. You are anchoring it in so deeply within your being that it's always there. And you create this space for the light to come in and the lineage to come in. You're opening your crown chakra to awakening, and you are there, and it's pure, it's light, it's yours. It's yours. You are the master. You are in control. And it never closes. It will always stay open. Sure, we go through depressions, we go through things as humans, we live in a really tricky world. So there are opportunities for us to forget, but for us to forget, not for it to close. Whereas what plant medicines and psychedelics do is it's like taking a key that never really belonged to you. It was like, firstly, humans, we decided that we need something outside of ourselves in order to access God, which is beyond bizarre because we are God. We are a heightened being in which we can be of service to the light because we are the light. We've been gifted this opportunity to be here on earth. So firstly, for us to think that I'm not special and important, I have to take a drug, or I have to identify as whatever it is to be important, it truly is just acknowledging yourself as God. So with the plant medicines, what it does is it's like, hey, like, I'm not strong enough. I'm not great enough. And this is all subconscious. And I'm not able to access the divine. So therefore, I need something outside of myself, which has its own identity, entity, being, consciousness of its own. I'm going to give my power 100% over to a drug. And I'm going to let that drug into my energetic field. And I'm going to let it control my mind. I'm going to let it control my being. If I'm in the presence of a shaman doing it, I'm also going to trust this other person that they look after their mental health, their physical well-being, their spiritual health, and they know what they're doing to hold space for me in a realm that I have never experienced before, or I do not know. So I'm handing over all of my power. It's an energetic exchange. You give the shaman money, you give the plant your power, and you let go. You surrender, and you let something else outside of you tell you who you are. And a lot of us have fallen into the trap of needing that. We go to psychologists and we sit there in therapy and we wait and we tell them to tell us who we are. Now, with the plant medicines and the drugs, I'm not saying that it's never served me. I'm not saying that exploring psychedelics didn't open me up to the understandings that we are God, but it came with a lot of karma because is the spiritual contract is not correct. It is not right. There's no way about it. You're taking a drug, you're handing over your power, and it drains you of your energy. That's why when you take ayahuasca, you end up vomiting and you're out for days. You have to prepare by taking tobacco and prepare your body. It's the same as if you're going through a spiritual process within the mystery school, within Enochian magic and things like that. You get the opportunity to purify because you're preparing for something, right? But plant medicines were only ever meant to be taken on a vision quest by the shaman who has trained his entire life to take one vision quest. And the Western world has got its fingers in it. And it's prostituted the plant. The spirit of the plant is so far gone. There are other things that are in front of it. So when you choose to take plant medicine, when you choose to take drugs, you have no idea what that voice is. And you have no idea what is behind the drugs. So it's very important to honor yourself as God and to truly say, sure, I mean, listen, I started taking plant medicines when I was 13. I stopped when I was 24. I was addicted, sure. And I loved it. Like it was my identity. Letting go of being a plant medicine shaman and coming into the mystery school was so hard for me because it was who I was. But I realized shamanism for me was music. It was meditation. It was movement. It was understanding the elements and working with alchemy and working with this lower magic, working with really understanding the cycles and the elements and the minerals and things like that. That is shamanism. I did not need something outside of myself because it was within me. And it took a really long time to get there because I doubted myself and because the plants were telling me I needed it. Until one day I was working with a drug called ibogaine. It's an African drug, an African plant medicine. And I took a double dose of it within the company of a shaman. And when I was in the shamanic journey, the drug said to me, you don't need me. I actually don't want to work with you. Because my light was so strong, because I was so strong, and because I was who I was, the spirit of that plant said, you don't need me. The plant stopped working with me. I could start doing shamanic journeys with plants that I didn't even take. I realized I'd overcome the illusion that has been created that we needed these things. Because we are so stuck in the mundane, in the matrix, in the systematic world, we felt we needed something outside of ourselves to see the truth that we live in a magical world. We live in a spiritual world. Everything is ritual, spiritual. Everything has cycles. Everything's magic. And for someone who doesn't understand magic or doesn't go into magic, sure, I completely understand that this might sound bizarre, but just think about it. Like those coincidences that happen for you every once in a while, they're there to show you that magic exists. There's no coincidences. Yeah, you can read way too into it. Like, sure, you can read like, oh, what's the sign? What does it mean? Or you can be like, wow, this is amazing. I'm seeing reflection from my internal world and my external world. But plant medicine was and is the short-term fix. And what it does is you take the drug, and why we were talking about earlier is that gently opens with the meditation. What plant medicine does is it opens the floodgates like this. And it lets anything in. So whatever's on the other side. So if that shaman that you're working with has negative stuff on him, it's coming in. If you've got negative stuff on like around you, it's coming in. You're letting anything in and it opens the floodgates. So people go through this out of body experience and they go, oh my God, I've never experienced anything like this before. I can see my light. I can see God. This is what I need in order to continue. No, you need to walk on the beach more and take your shoes off and meditate. And sure, if you're suicidal, maybe a little beach walk is not going to hit it. I get that. But there are incredible healers out there that will hold space for you in order for you to be able to take the steps in the right direction and help empower you without taking drugs. without harming your body, without harming your mind, and they want to help you. I know this because I took a step along that path because I wanted to be that person. I wanted to help the version of me that I needed to help 10 years ago.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, I've got a lot of friends in my life that are still on plant medicine drugs. I've got a lot of shamans in my life that still feel like they need them and that are stuck in ayahuasca plantations in the Amazon and whatnot. And it's sad because I know their strength. I see their light. I grew up in a shamanic community in South Africa, in Cape Town. I grew up among some of the most powerful shamans I've ever met.
Mm.
But they're limited. And I can tell you one thing, I've lost way more friends in the psychedelic community through death, through horrible, tragic experiences than my grandma has lost at 92 years old.
Mm.
And that is the karmic effect of taking drugs. And that is it. So the difference is you may experience similar things, out of body experiences, but if you choose to better yourself through awakening and take paths of lineage and initiation that will help you progress in the light and help bring the light of the world up and anchor Shambhala and bring that light up, you're going to help people and you're going to progress. Whereas if you choose to take plant medicines and drugs like that, you are actively accepting karma. And it's so easy to see because I don't know any plant medicine shaman that has got a clear karmic line. And it's unfortunate to say, but I hope and pray that anyone who is working with these drugs or medicines, even if they don't agree with me, they don't have to, that they just understand that there is another way.
Yeah.
That doesn't hurt the mind or the body.
Yeah, absolutely, Jess. And you touched on something so important, something that I feel passionate about as well, is just sharing that there are other ways to connecting with your higher purpose, to spiritual enlightenment. And often what I see when people are seeking a spiritual path or when they're just starting to wake up is that they default to plant medicine, and think that that is the only way. And I like what you express as well, because this is how I see it. When you take plant medicine, it blasts open your consciousness. And there's lots of information that comes through. And sometimes, often more often than not, your physical body takes a while to like recalibrate with all of this open consciousness that you have. And I've seen people take 6 months to 2 years to just feel somewhat back to normal, just to integrate, all of the shifts and the changes and everything that they've been exposed to as well. And then what I found with the life activation, which is the very first healing in the lineage of King Solomon, it gently awakens your spiritual DNA. And it's a very natural, subtle process that you can integrate with time. It gently works in your life. There's no franticness about it, and that's what I found about the lineage of King Solomon. So when I talk about the modern mystery school and the lineage of King Solomon, that is where it comes together. And one of the things that drew me into that spiritual path is that there's so much divinity, royalty coming through that path. And it requires you to be an active participant in your growth and in your change and your transformation. Because yes, you can go for these healings, you can receive certain teachings, and then there's also a deep level of self-awareness and self-responsibility that you have to take on in order to shift your life, to change your life for the better. So it's a very empowering path where you are actually in the driver's seat of creating the life that you want. And that's also one of the main core differences that I found. Instead of being a victim or subject to the external things that's just going to move through you, it's you are working with yourself to transform your life for the better.
Yeah, it's amazing that you touch on that. Like, one thing I didn't mention is like psychedelics create illusions within your life. And sometimes we need to be a little bit delulu in order to think outside of the box, right? But when I say that, I mean like I need to believe in something far greater than what I believe, like God's plan, right? My plan, God's plan. Like And psychedelics have helped people create illusions in their minds to get to places. So that's where people are like, oh no, I wouldn't have been able to do it without psychedelics. Sure, they have helped create illusions, but they've also embedded illusions within them that is take them on a different path. So what the life activation does, and especially coming back from being so addicted to plant medicines and psychedelics, is like the light activation comes in so gently and ignites the light within each individual soul the way that they need it. I've had clients whose lives the next day is completely different. Like their job, they lose their job. I mean, I've lost my job because of a life activation, but it's opened the door to the right job. It's
Yeah.
opened the door to the right client. But what the life activation does is it kind of infuses. It's like a herbal tea instead of a coffee, you know? It's like what it comes in, it comes in and it fuses into your life and it course corrects you and it weaves its way into you to be able to take the next right step, those 1% increments. It's
Mhm.
working with the pure divine light and activating your spiritual DNA so that you can make the right steps towards your higher self and bringing in the right opportunities. For the people who are in business, I like to say life activation helps you put you in the room with the right people at the right time to have the right conversations to create the right opportunities. For
Yeah.
people who are in spirituality, it's going to open up your mind. It's going to open up the opportunities in your consciousness for your spiritual development so that you can be a better space holder, so that you can be a better mother, so that you can be a better healer. And it infuses your life with light. It gives you more energy, vitality. It's not the one stop shop, but it kind of is. You've got to show up yourself. All this, like, for example, if I choose not to wake up and do my rituals every morning, I know that it's going to stagnate my energy. However, I have the ability to incorporate the light, which I've worked so hard for by using my rituals. It's the same with the life activation. You get given the light, you get shown the path, it becomes louder. The right decisions become louder. And even if you're already on an amazing path, you're doing well, you're successful financially, spiritually, mentally, and emotionally, there's nothing wrong with being even better. There's nothing wrong with desiring more. And it's not like I need to be more successful, but what does more peace look like in my life? What is it what's a higher divine connection with my highest being? So the life activation is connection to source and a connection to your light and the connection to the right direction. And it can serve anyone, even younger, like teenagers to old adults, and it affects you 7 generations behind and 7 generations ahead. We focus mainly on 3 to 5 generations, is like that's where the spiritual research is really defined, but it can affect even further. So what you're doing is you're eradicating addictions, you're eradicating patterns and behaviors which have caused stagnation in the past and are really helping you, not just you, but your daughter, your friends, your mother, and it creates a ripple effect around the people around you.
Yeah. Okay, great. And so you've touched on business, and I want to use this opportunity to pivot to talk about ambition, because I know that both of us are also extremely ambitious.
Yes.
One thing I found on my journey, Jessica, is that up until the age of 29, I would say from like 13, 14, all the way to 29, I was heavily involved in partying, drugs, alcohol, just life being all that way inclined, and I just thought about it yesterday. I was like, thankfully, I grew up in a quite a stable Christian home. My parents were like always praying. In fact, they had to stay on their knees, when I was a teenager. And I thought about it, I was like, it's literally only my parents' prayers and probably my grandparents' prayers that kept me safe and protected, because I landed up in spaces that I really, a lovely young woman like me should never have been. But yet, thankfully, I didn't get hurt in any bad way. What I found on my journey is that when I eventually came clean, is part of that intensity, I then channeled into work and I became a workaholic. And I think it's good to be passionate in life. And at the time I was doing really amazing work, making a difference in the country. But I was like constantly working, and I found my value and my worth in my productivity. And my whole identity was aligned with, my work. And over time, of course, I've shifted that because there's also a different energy behind what you're doing. I would love for you to just share a bit more about your career, your ambition. I remember us having a conversation in London one time as well. And I think you told me you have like 5 houses in Capricorn. So you really have this energy of like building big, like over long term. And tell us more about that. How has ambition played out in your life?
Well, it really helped that I had a workaholic father as well. Firstly, I don't know if it's a Jewish thing as well. Like it's just like that 5 houses in Capricorn. It's a huge thing. I had my first job at the age of 12, and my dad said to me, "If you go work this weekend, whatever you get paid, I'll pay you." So I was like, "Sweet!" Like I grew up around really affluent kids who were getting huge sums of pocket money, and my dad didn't quite think that that was the way I was going to be brought up. He's like, "I'll give you some, but you need to work." And it's had a positive effect in my life, and it's also had a negative effect in my life. However, I would really say that the positive has outweighed the negative hugely. And so at the age of 12, I started working at a hairdresser, sweeping hair. But I knew the hairdresser, so it was really fun. And like I got to like help with the highlights, and I got my hair done. And it was really cool. I started understanding this, the exchange and the power, the power of exchange and working and effort. And that rippled into working as a waitress and things like that. And then I started working at the festivals, and I was doing bartending. I was helping with stalls. I liked it so much. I started organizing the festivals with the organizers. I was running the stalls. I was running staff. This was all by the age of 18. Like I was put in a position of managing people and looking after people. Psychedelic realms. I was making sure people were clean and safe on the dance floor. Like I was making sure people who were going into, and I was employed to be of service. If people were going into bad trips or overdosing on drugs, I was there to help them. I energetically could help them out. Then that coupled into working for restaurants, and I really loved project management. And then I relapsed and I went into rehab. I was studying film at the time, and when I went into rehab, the head of my film school said, "Unfortunately, you're going to have to repeat the entire year when you come back." I was like, "I'm not going to do that." And my mom said to me, like, "Jess, you've been cooking since you were 8, 5." I was cooking. I was allowed to use the stove from the age of 5. And she said, "Why don't I ask your favorite restaurant, Tin Swallow, Atlantic, Cape Town? Go. It's amazing. If you can go and start working." And I was like, "That would be amazing. That would be so cool." So I got out of rehab and I went straight into a fine dining kitchen run by a chef in recovery, might I add. Talk about alignment. Chef Guy Clark, my absolute babe. Um, and I learned to be a chef. Now, I had already been working really hard in the film industry and the festival industry, and I'd found this ambition within me when I came into recovery, because I went from being an addict into being into recovery, into managing and holding space of meetings for addicts for between 30 and 100 people. At the age of 18, I was the chairwoman of an addictions meeting on a Thursday and a sex and love addictions meeting, holding space for men of like 60 and women of 40 and kids who are having these really in-depth addictions. I was holding space for them already. So my ambition and drive was really there. And I was working as a chef. And my chef career has been incredible. It's been wild. It's been addictive. It's been tantalizing. It's been insane. And it is. It's an alchemy. You're working with air, water, fire, and earth. You're working with food, with people. You have to be psychically in tune. And it's just like I could feel all this power within me, and I wanted to exert this and build this. But I also became addicted to it, because being a chef, you were there from morning to evening. Then you're going out because you need to release yourself, and then you've got to quickly sleep so that you can be back there tomorrow. So I got into really toxic pattern, but I was showing up. I was getting into top restaurants in London. My career was booming. I loved it, but I started falling. The drugs kicked in, everything else kicked in. And then once I fell really hard and started becoming a healer and coming through all my healing things, I didn't quite know what rest was. And it's been a 4-year journey of learning to rest. And I think I'm finally getting to a place where I'm able to incorporate balance into my lifestyle. My masculine, it takes a lot of space up in my life, but so does now my feminine, which before I didn't have. I didn't have the feminine. I didn't have the ability to access rest because I was always rushing, always had to go, always had to be there. Next check on, I have to do this, etc. And what over the time I realized I can't work in a restaurant because it's the wrong energy for me. So I started going private. And that's when my career's really excelled because I'm my own boss and I'm able to truly cater for people and have that ambition that I've cultivated all the years and really look after people and use all the skill sets that I've been able to cultivate and serve people in the light as well as a healer through that energy. So now with the healing energy coming through, it's allowing me to get this ambition and drive that I have, which I mean, I have an amazing client base. Like I cook for professional athletes, I cook for royal families, I cook for just anyone based in London or Europe who needs a chef as well. Like there's no limitations to who I cook for. But essentially I've built a career that I'm reaching really, really incredible clients globally and being traveled around the world to cook for them because I decided to choose me and to choose rest and to look after myself. And that is what it's given me in turn, inclusive of initiations, life activations, healings, becoming a ritual master, Kabbalist, and all of the other light work which I've done. And it's opened doors for me because I'm able to actually step into the doors with reverence and grace. But it took my addiction into my profession, and I was able to take my life back from and transmute that, which was really cool, which the tools of the lineage of King Solomon has given me. I've taken them and I've worked with them, and I now am able to fine tune on the path of mastery. But I showed up, and the lineage has been able to give that to me. So I hope that answers the question.
Yeah, yeah. And so now, as we step into the realm of ascension, ascending in your consciousness, ascending in your spirituality, progressing in life. And, as ritual masters and Kabbalists, Jess and I, we went on a very transformative, interesting journey last year, studying the universal ray of Hermetic ray of Kabbalah.
Yeah.
Share with us a bit more about your ascension journey. What is life like as a ritual master and as a Kabbalist? And share some of the transformation that you went through as well, Jess, and how you now live your life. How do you overcome challenges and go about your life today?
Hmm. Very beautiful. There's so many things. I think that could be a podcast on its own. I think firstly, I'll speak from a ritual master perspective because it seems to be the energy that's coming through really strong today. Is I've always been a warrior. I've always protected people, and I've always been there at the forefront, the front line, willing to fight for what's right, and do the right thing. I was misguided to what the right thing was. So what being a ritual master has done is realigned what the right thing is for me, for others. It has helped me find the line between light and dark and gray and what is actually going to help people. And it's also helped me receive the power that I knew that I could hold, but I didn't trust myself. I knew that it was available to me, but I didn't trust myself. So it's allowed me to cultivate self-trust on a level. Obviously, us being ritual masters, a lot of us are incredibly psychic. So I had a lot of psychic problems. Now I've brought in a lot of light into that. So I'm able to use my psychic gifts to be able to strengthen, you know, um, the way I am for others and for myself. So I can live happily as a psychic and not, consistently receiving negative energy. And I've learned how to build protection around myself so that I can go into difficult situations and be there for other people. So for being a ritual master is not just, and it's amplified my life. I've really been able to take on situations and stand up and really be there for people, places, and send light to energy to experiences. I've been able to do service and be of service in a much higher level. So for being a ritual master, that has changed my life because I've become more purposeful and in alignment to the light with service as like the forefront. I maybe haven't spoken about service so much, but it really is truly my focus in life. Like when people don't understand why I do what I do as a ritual master and a Kabbalist, I'm like, if you could hear my inner thoughts, like I was cycling last night and I'm like, I'm gonna earn like 30 grand extra in the next 2 months so that I can do these courses so that I can be better service to the light. Like that might sound really bizarre to someone who's paying $150 for life activation. But for
Yeah.
me, I really want to consistently live the vibration of life that I'm living and elevate it. And I want to progress in my spiritual health and spiritual things. And people are like, oh my God, you're doing so much. I'm like, I understand, but this is my purpose. This is what I got to do. Oh, but are you getting paid for it? I'm like, if I decide to show up and offer services, then I will get paid for it.
Mm.
But if I'm learning how to balance the matrix and the ritual master world and incorporate it together so that I can truly be in service to the light, it's going to take some time to get there. So it's like people's like, delayed gratification. I'm learning patience. It's taught me patience. So ritual masters really helped me become a better person
Yeah.
and step into service. Whereas being a Kabbalist, oh my God. Wow. That was crazy. That was insane.
Yes.
Oh wow! People think that Kabbalah is like a manifestation tool in the modern world and the Western world. Sure, it's great for manifestation. You put what you want in that tree, you're gonna get it in the way that you need it, and the way that you show up for it, and the way that you deepen. If you put 100% into Kabbalah, Kabbalah gives 100% to you. So it's your choice. However, when we're going through the tree, the glyph of the tree, when we in the Universal Hermetic Kabbalah array, the way that we go through it, it's transcending, transforming, and you reconnect to God in ourselves and outside of ourselves. We find out more who we are, what our purpose is, what we're here for. I mean, like it's so beautiful, it's so powerful. And like, okay, so if I'm a muggle, or if I'm someone a muggle, I used to be a muggle, if I'm someone who hasn't done anything spiritual, I'm just listening to the podcast and right now I cannot understand what you can do.
Yeah.
Kabbalah is literally expansion of your mind and your life. So for example, spirituality is not really like the biggest portion of your life and you still want to just learn about yourself and expand and grow, it is an awakening. It
Yeah.
reveals the truths within life, the universal truths, the laws, the spiritual laws, and it really shows you the capacity in which you can grow, and it just unravels. And you get put in the washing machine. You get putting in the washing machine, you get scrubbed, all the stains come out, and you have to look at the stain and you have to be like, ah, that hurts. And then it's just like, it goes, and then it's like, but look how shiny you are, and then you get upgraded. And you do it with an amazing group of people, and you're all in it together. Um, and I wouldn't recommend doing Kabbalah any other way. Coming from a Jew who knows people out there, Hasidic Kabbalists in Israel studying it, and rabbis, etc. Like, this is without religion,
Yeah.
without any bias towards a specific having to be. This is universal Hermetic Kabbalah, and it is so potent and powerful for expansion within yourself and within your life. It's funny, I'm moving my computer screen because I've got all my Kabbalah books in here and they just want to jump out. I'm like, it's like, pick me, pick me.
Oh my goodness. Like I was like Kabbalah was crazy. I mean, I've been through a lot in life, a lot of challenging times. I've done a lot in my life, but that was something else. And also one of the most, well, the most rewarding process I've ever been through. It's definitely not for the faint-hearted, but for our audience today, I know that Jessica and I, we've been speaking a lot about, ritual master magic, Kabbalah, and so forth. And if there's something that is like activated in you, if your cells are going like, "Ping, I don't really know what these ladies are talking about, but I feel like I need to learn more," I am going to be dropping the links below to read up about the ritual master path, the life activation, Kabbalah. And if it's something that you want to explore, you are welcome to reach out to myself or even Jess, and we will guide you in the right direction. If you are looking for change, positive transformation, if you want to rise up and live up to your fullest potential and create the life of your dreams, this is a path for you. So I will share all of those details below. Now, Jessica, as we begin to wrap up the session today, is there anything that you feel called to share to the Luminary Leadership community? And I must share with you why I named this Luminary Leadership. And I talk about the path of going from a visionary leader to a luminary leader. So when you're this visionary leader, you are ambitious, you're doing meaningful work in the world, you've got a strong work ethic, but then there comes a point in your life where you have this inner knowing, like there's more to me, there's more to this world. I need to align with a deeper truth in my soul. And that's often when you'll find teachers, you'll find the path to reveal to you who you truly are. And that's when you go from a visionary to a luminary, where you ignite your next level potential, you unleash your true higher genius in life. So with that, Jessica, are there any lasting thoughts, reflections, word of advice, or anything that is on your heart that you would like to share to this community today, knowing that, there are leaders out there who know that they've got so much potential, but they don't even know, they may be stuck, confused, lacking of clarity. And yeah, any parting words that you would like to share?
I think, thank you. I mean, firstly, I want to say thank you. This has been an incredible podcast, and you shine your light so bright. And I can't wait to have you on my podcast. I can't wait. It's going to be amazing. And so that we can get to know all of these reverse questions about you. I see a lot of myself in you too, and it's really beautiful that we get to explore this together. So, what do I have to say is, don't take my age, don't take my story, and don't take anything else I've said today as a reason why you shouldn't take a step along the line. We tend to compare ourselves a lot. Oh, but she was into drugs, or she was doing this. If anything you heard today, whether it was the word life activation, whether it was expansion, whether it was service, whether it was anything, even the selfish thing that you heard that you liked, allow it to guide you towards the light and to better yourselves. If you are in leadership, if you're serving others, why not become better? Why not receive more? Why not be worthy of even more and being even more for someone else? And not in the addictive sense of I need more, but in the I can grow. I am multidimensional. I want to expand. I want to be of service in a greater way. I want to be able to hold others deeper. I want to be a better mom. I want to be a better daughter. I want to be a better friend. I want to be a better sister, brother, etc. And take a chance. Book a life activation. Book a session with Eslin. Take one of her courses. Come to London. Come visit me. Book a life activation with me if you're in London, and take a chance in expansion and take a chance in the unknown, because my story you may not resonate with, or you may, but the alchemic change that I've created in my life, going from a full drug addict, an addict of many proportions, and traumatic girl who did not see any way forward to being able to be the version of myself I am today, it's the level of change and transformation that I've been able to achieve is because
not only my determination, my will, and my love for leadership is the lineage of King Solomon, and it's helped many of us. So even if it's a meditation and you're not ready for the life activation, or if you're ready to fucking be a ritual master tomorrow, take the chance, reach out, listen to the podcast again, get the book, get the life activation, book a session with Eslin. Just do it. Do it. Don't think, just do.
Wonderful. And lastly, Jess, where can people find you if they'd like to connect with you?
Beautiful. Well, I'm mainly available through Instagram. My website's on my Instagram, my chef's on my Instagram, my chocolate business is on my Instagram, my podcast's on Instagram, my WhatsApp number is available on my Instagram, I know. So if you go to London Healer on Instagram, and you'll see Jessica Rhea, jessicareahealing.com. I'll give Eslin all the links. You can reach out, simply just send me a message. I usually reply within a day or two, and you can ask me anything. I'm an open book, and nothing's too dark or nothing's too deep. I'm here to serve.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, Goddess. It was such a blessing and honor to have you on the show today, to even learn more about you and your path. And I'm so excited also for your future, all that is still going to unfold. I love you very much.
Love you too.
And yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Yay.
Yay.